Just really simply, could you explain what these tariffs that Donald Trump is talking about are and who will be expected to pay what?
Well, we only know what he has said during the campaign. We haven't seen any details of any policy, but what he has said is that he plans to impose somewhere between 10 and 20% on tariffs across the board, all imports into the United States. He also plans to impose 60% tariff on many Chinese goods. So that means that all the goods going into the U.S. will be more expensive. Any good that gets processed in the U.S. and then exported for further processing or sales overseas will also be more expensive.
So this potential 60% tariff on Chinese goods could be quite significant and could potentially have effects here in Australia. Can you explain how that could be felt?
Right, that's exactly right. And this is because if the tariffs are imposed on the Chinese economy sells a lot of goods to the United States. They become more expensive. They don't sell as much. It means the Chinese economy starts to slow down. Growth is hurt. The Chinese economy is already suffering from slow growth. The Chinese government has just recently announced a package of support to help improve the Chinese economy. So if these tariffs cause further slowing, it means that China won't be in the position to buy as much of Australian goods, so not as much iron ore, not as much wine, not as much other types of goods that they import from Australia.
So realistically, how could this be felt by everyday Australians going about their day?
Well, it'll cause the price of most imports to increase because, for example, Australians import a lot of cars. And those cars are made throughout the world. If there are increased tariffs imposed on intermediate components and other types of inputs to cars, that's just going to raise the price of cars. So all of the goods that are affected by global value chains will find it more difficult, more expensive to do business, and that will flow on to the Chinese consumer.
So there are suggestions that Australia could be able to negotiate with the US on tariffs. How could that look? And is it possible that there would be an exception for Australian goods?
Well, there has been some indication that Trump will initially impose these tariffs and then negotiate bilaterally with each of its trading partners. And that will mostly be initial focus on countries that have a large trade surplus with the U.S. So that is China, but it's also Japan, it's also Korea, who are also big export markets for Australia. So that could affect our exports to those markets as well. But when it comes to negotiating with Australia, they'll probably strike some kind of deal, I would think.